everything's going good. I'm married, 2 kids. The swearing in of it was huge. I mean, it was standing room only. People came out of the woodwork to come see me get sworn in. I did some pretty unique things where people were writing articles about it. I had the first ever Taxpayer Hero Award in the state of Ohio because I was saving money and rehabilitating inmates. And things were going really good. I mean, really good. And then I was diagnosed with arthritis in 2010. I broke both of my ankles as a kid. And I ended up going to a specialist, and they gave me $105 Vicodin a month. You know, trying to be a father, a husband, and the sheriff of a county. We get 3 kids that are fall through the ice in the mouth of the river. So I race out there. We get the boat out and that. We lose all 3 of the kids. They drown in front of us. So what do? I get help for everybody else. I don't get help for Kyle. So between that and then my marriage is starting to struggle, the amount of Vicodin start to really climb. A couple different doctors, and everybody trusted me. I was the sheriff, you know?
Right.
Who would ever think that the sheriff would be in it? That night at 6:30, I get a phone call. You better turn yourself in. I said, what's up? They got a 43 count indictment on you. So they locked me up. I went in, turned myself in. They locked me up.
You're the sheriff in your county?
They booked me there, and then they took me to adjacent county.
What is the fucking staff doing? They got to be walking around going
They were.
Shit.
They were like, oh, I go to take my son to school. He says, and I'll never forget this. He's like, Dad, am I going to see you after school? I said, Dylan, I got this. I said, watch me. I got this, Dylan. I'll see you after school.
Oh. Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I am here with Kyle Overmyer. He is the former sheriff of, I don't know what county, but he was a sheriff of that county for 8 years. We're going to find out. And he was, what were you indicted for?
Doctor shopping and theft of drugs.
Doctor shopping and theft of drugs. All right, not your typical sheriff. So this is going to be a good video, and it's going to be a good interview, or whatever. All right, thank you. Check this out. You're gonna like this. It's good. He's a character. First of all, do you know who Sheriff Grady Judd is? Sheriff Judd Grady, I think. Sheriff Grady.
Grady Judd, yeah.
Grady Judd.
That name's familiar, but yeah. I don't know for sure.
Brown hair, glasses.
He's the sheriff of Polk County.
Oh, okay.
You know, and he's constantly doing. He does press conferences where he makes fun of the like. He'll be like this Joker, you know, and then he'll do a whole thing.
Right.
You
should get him on here.
Hilarious. I should. I always love when. Listen, I hate to say this, but I love it when there's some homeowner shot somebody for breaking in. He's like, and he'll go, and he shot him. He said, unfortunately, he didn't kill him, and the man got away. So we're looking for. And then he'll tell him, he's like, we've offered to have the homeowner come and take one of our classes, so that next time somebody tries to break into his house, he kills them. Because that's what we do in Polk County. We kill people.
He's a good old boy.
He's great.
Yeah, no, and that's what you need to hear. You need to hear those things.
He's awesome.
It makes you want to live in the United States.
Yeah, right. I love him. I'm sure most people don't, but anyways, or some people don't. I think people in Florida do. But all right, so he might cut that out. I never know. Okay, so I have a question for you,
yes.
Real quick, which is, where were you born?
Fremont, Ohio, Sandusky County.
All right, and I mean, brothers, sisters.
One sister. My parents are still alive and married for over 50 plus years.
Okay.
And my father, actually, 38 years in law enforcement.
Nice.
Followed in his footsteps, unfortunately.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. Well, so you went to, any problems in high school?
No, not really. I mean, my parents, they sent me through a private Catholic school, played sports, football, wrestled, boxed. I was an average athlete. Always struggled with that. I always wanted to be, but, kind of being short,
right?
Comes into into one of the biggest factors. But yeah, I mean,
It's fucking tall people.
exactly. But I played sports, got pretty good grades, but of course I experimented with drinking, and I never thought I could, be good enough for my father. Actually,
Right.
always struggled with that, being good enough. But no, I had a great childhood.
Did you? I mean, like growing up, going through high school, did you think you were going to be law enforcement? Like, was that something in your mind? Like, this is what I'm doing.
No, not at all. I was going to be an artist. I painted, draw. Kind of like you.
Yeah.
I was big into that, and found myself after graduating. I went to and majored in art for 2 years at the University of Toledo.
Nice. Why didn't you didn't stick with it though? Why not?
I didn't see any money.
I hear you, bro. It was the same thing. I was like, I'm never gonna make any money doing this.
Yeah, I didn't see any money. I started partying a lot. I became, I got into bodybuilding, started being kind of a meathead, and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah, that certainly doesn't fit in with the fine arts college.
No.
Yeah.
No. I had long hair for a short time. Both of my ears pierced. Went through that progressive stage, trying to find Kyle Overmyer, and I lost him up in Toledo and bailed out of college.
Yeah. Yeah, I when I was in like going to college and realizing that like 4 of my classmates like lived in a 1-bedroom together, and that these other guys are sharing a car, and these guys are taking the bus to school, and I was like, these guys are broke and they're okay with it. Like I remember thinking, I can't compete with that. Like I have to be able to make a living. Like these guys are okay sleeping in someone's spare room. Like they were okay with that. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to be able to compete with these guys.
Right.
So I did the same thing when I just did it for a degree, and then I said I got to go for some kind of business or something that's going to make some money.
Right.
So, which sounds like you did it halfway through college. You figured it out.
Yeah, but I bailed out. Didn't go back to college right away. I worked in odd factory jobs, bouncing around, and always saw that my father could put a roof over our house and feed us with law enforcement. He was very respected in the community, so I even went to him and said, you know what, I'm going to get into law enforcement. He said, you're crazy, don't do it. And I didn't listen to him. I put some money together, and I paid my way through the police academy.
Okay, how much was that?
Oh, I think back then it was like $3,500, and
they don't have like student loans?
No, not through that, because it was such a short term. It was only like 6 months. You go through it about 4 days a week, and you're out, and you're back and rolling again.
So you basically have like a certificate, and then you go and you
Correct.
apply for different departments.
Yes.
And were you hired at the same place your dad was?
I was. It took me 3 times though. Okay. The sheriff then, who I'll get into talking about him quite a bit. He was kind of hesitant because I had a wild side to me to still go out and party, and I'd fight. I was a wild child still. I wasn't afraid to go out and have a lot of fun. And
had you been arrested?
No.
How does he know that? He just
because when you're in a smaller community, sometimes people,
right.
Word of mouth, and then after the 3rd try, they gave me the nod and they hired me in corrections. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started in corrections. That's where a lot of people start there.
Yeah, it's like entry level. Like unless you come out of the military or something, a lot of the guys go because it gets you into the bureaucracy, into handling people.
Right, and getting to actually know the people in the streets, because you're dealing with the same people in and out, daily, monthly. You see the same people, and then you interact with them, and then eventually you do on the streets.
Right. My God. Sorry, I was just thinking the nicknames. T-Dog, what's up?
Oh, yeah.
What's up? What's up? 336. What's going on? Oh my God. Pookie.
Yeah, everybody got nicknames.
Down here,
everybody get a street name.
Down here, it's like Billy Bob, Jim, Jim, whatever. Oh gosh, Skeeter. There's a lot of Skeeters.
Yeah.
Skeeter's making meth in the single wide.
I kind of figured
for
that.
sure. So how long did you do? Were you in the jail?
Corrections. Only about 3.5 years, and. I got the opportunity to be promoted to road patrol, and during that time, I got real serious about law enforcement. I went back. I got my 2-year degree in criminal justice. I went back for that, and then met my first wife, actually.
Okay. She was in school?
She graduated. She was a school teacher, actually. And that was back in 99, got married. And I was working on road patrol. And then shortly after, within the same year, one day before our 1-year anniversary, she had our first child, my daughter, Michaela, actually.
So, yeah, perfect little civil servant family.
Yeah, school teacher, cop, and you got a daughter, and, lived in a nice house. We bought a house and living the all-American life at first,
Right.
And then while I worked in road patrol, I got pretty serious into drug interdiction. The crack cocaine epidemic was really big in our community.
What year was this?
99 to 2000. 2000 is when I went to the road patrol, and things were really starting to pick up. We had a lot of people from Detroit, Mississippi, Chicago coming up, setting up shop. And so I got pretty active on the streets. And also I was on the SWAT team as well. So I took a liking to the whole drug interdiction, taking the dope boys off the streets.
Right.
And I then decided I'm going to take this up a level, and I went back to college then.
Right.
And finished my bachelor's in business administration.
Like you don't seem to me like you would be able to. To me, you would pull up, and they'd be like, cop. Like as as a undercover. Remember, what was the chick's name do you remember the chick that we did? She does crime cleanup now.
I remember her.
Yeah, she was super clean cut. Like she looked. Actually, she was a little aggressive looking, but very like
right.
she looked like a cop though too. She definitely looked like a cop too. But people would look at me and think cop. You being undercover.
Well, at that time, I went from road patrol. Then I got promoted to the detective bureau for a short time.
Okay.
I was a sergeant. I almost left and went federal, actually. And that's where the sheriff then came to me and said, no, I'd really like you to stay because you have some talent here into this drug interdiction. I almost left and went to the federal system because I obtained my bachelor's degree, and you need that to get a federal job. And when he dangled the carrot in front of my face to promote me as rank, I jumped on the opportunity.
What does that mean?
I was a sergeant
okay.
at the age of 27, which is very young there. And then within a year, because I started getting involved with other agencies, boarding up houses, businesses that were selling drugs out of them and making a real impact in the community, he promoted me to captain. I was top of the food chain, actually.
Okay.
At 28 years old, very young.
Okay. Can we go back to the undercover thing again?
Well, yeah, we're good. We're getting there right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Did I jump ahead?
He built some of the nation's largest banks out of an estimated $55 million because $50 million wasn't enough and $60 million seemed excessive. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crimes, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
During that time, my first undercover, I made some small buys. I actually would go out and make some small buys. And then before even the whole big drug undercovers that I would do, we got a rash of large-scale burglaries that people were stealing Kubotas, tractors, lawnmowers, and we ended up flipping. It's street terms for turning somebody into an informant or a snitch.
Right.
We had a guy that we had probably with about 30 to 50 felony charges of these thefts. And here was an organization of a group of Boilermakers, actually, businessmen that actually had some money, and they were hiring, guys that were hooked on drugs to go out and steal. They'd turn around and resell the stuff and make a bundle of money, and they didn't need the money. So what happened was that guy then introduced me to the ringleader who lived outside the county who didn't know, and so I started running around stealing stuff with these guys.
So when you say a boiler room, they were running a boiler. They were selling. They had guys on the phone calling to sell the stolen goods.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and they had great jobs. They were businessmen. They were basically doing this on the side to pocket extra cash. So
you can never have enough cash.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, cash is king. I already
reasonable.
know. I know.
Everybody always says, you were already making $200,000-$300,000 a year, and it's like, well, I mean, another 100,000.
Well, then you spend that, and you need to make more money.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
but you don't know that when you're in it.
No.
And besides those, they probably felt like they were insulated. I mean, those are the guys doing the stealing.
They did.
Just
And
selling.
yeah, you're right. You're right. And
It's like the guy driving the getaway car is like, hey, these guys are robbing banks. How do you know? Because I'm driving the getaway car. So I'm not involved at all.
right.
Right. That makes sense. So all right. So you run around and you're stealing stuff with the guys.
I was one of them. I went by the name of Bert. Bert was my name, and I would go meet with these guys and go deliver the property. They would give us money.
But they're crackheads.
Well, no, we were taking it. I went right to the businessmen. I went to the
Okay.
top, and I was with these guys that were, basically crackheads, and they were.
So the informant introduces you to the head guys.
Correct, and I become one of them.
You start selling the stuff for him, giving him the stuff. They're trying to sell it.
Yep.
I mean, is this stuff that's already like you guys already have like in the evidence room or something?
No, I actually went out and stole stuff from places, like farm machinery place. Yeah, I'd go out and do it with them, and go out and with them, and then go deliver it and get the money.
Well, what about the farmer?
We would go and actually sit down and have a one-on-one with the farmer and
After?
tell him, and
Listen.
and tell him, yes, and tell him, and then they
My
would
bad.
and tell them how, and then they were really happy with us,
All right.
because we're protecting them. So eventually, it had to all come to an end, and they swooped in on all of us one night, and I was actually arrested and taken in and booked at a county jail.
And you go in the county jail with
Yeah.
them through the whole thing?
Yeah, and booked.
Bert?
Yeah, Bert went in, and then of course they.
Do you see people you know?
No, they slid me out of there later and got me out of there, but it made it look good.
Right. So now these guys have no clue,
They
really.
had-
So they took Bert. They're probably like, they took Bert.
They had no
They
clue.
moved Bert.
They had no clue until the date of court when I walk in.
And they said, Bert.
And he looks in Bert, and I said, no. I'm Detective Captain Overmyer.
Oh,
And then, you know what? They
Bert.
take the deal.
What have you done?
Take the deal. Take the deal. They took the deal.
What kind of deal?
I don't even remember.
Doesn't it seem real? Like I hear some of these things, like they're like you're like trying to get the guy to take like 5 years or something. It's like 5 years. That's nothing. Like, and these I'm not doing 5 years. 5. It's not.
Not compared to what you did.
You've been stealing.
I know.
Shit for 2 years.
Right.
People don't realize like you go on to like the fine, the prison sentence you can get for like going on to like a construction site and stealing like an earth mover or a bulldozer or something. Like, it's massive. You get into tons of trouble for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's tons of money. Can you imagine the
Yeah.
money they're making?
Yeah.
I can remember when the copper thing, everybody was stripping copper out of newly
Houses.
constructed. Oh, that. And then catalytic converters. People were going crazy over that stuff.
Yeah. I actually know a guy that got caught. He was stealing commercial equipment. They were stealing it, putting on the big rigs or putting on the rigs, and then driving it to several states over, and then they would sell it. Anyway, he did like 5 years for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
This was back in like the 70s when you got no time at all.
Oh, wow,
Like you
70s.
probably got like 10 years. He probably got like 10 years and got out in 4 or 5 years. But anyway, yeah. Sorry.
now
Go ahead.
now you do Buck Rogers time,
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. It's all different now.
Poor Colby. He doesn't know. So you were doing that, and then
Yeah.
and the guys take the deal, and then what happens?
Then I keep doing a lot of narcotics investigation. End up getting into a situation where it starts out as a decent sized ecstasy deal where this guy wants to flip, so I flip him, and he runs into a multiple kilo cocaine operation
By accident. That wasn't even what he
that
was
we
doing.
didn't think we bumped into. So we worked a lot with the state agency, BCI and I, who actually ended up busting me, and the DEA. So that guy then, he wants to cooperate. So we go in for a meeting one day with him and everybody, all the agents. We're going to do a joint operation, and they said, well, we want you to introduce you to somebody, and they point at one of the guys sitting there that they usually use for undercover, and he said, no, he looks like a cop. And they said, oh, he goes, well, who don't? And he points at me and he says, I want that guy right there. And he pointed at me, And I'm like,
You scream cop to me. But go ahead.
I had my head shaved bald. I had a beard, mustache. I played the part pretty well. I was a lot heavier too.
Okay.
So I partnered up with him and ran around with him. Did a lot of Western Unions, shipping money over to Mexico, making all kinds of phone calls, buys. Even one of the biggest buys, 17 kilos of cocaine at one time.
Okay.
And
That's a lot.
we would rent a storage unit. The guy would roll in. We'd drop the door and break the tire down. Of course, they patch it down and everything like that. And break the tire down, and you could get 17 keys out of a tire.
Okay.
And it was good cocaine. Still had the stamp on it, coming straight from Mexico.
So when you buy the cocaine,
Yeah.
I mean, where's that money come from? That's got to be a chunk of money. What's that?
The feds, the authorities, and what a lot of times they'll let some money go, but other money, you'd wait so far, a couple states away, and
Busts. They track, they follow the money,
so it doesn't look
right.
You don't get
just before it goes over the border. They fucking grab.
Yeah, I mean, you probably know as well as I do from your experiences. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
It's the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, they're printing the money themselves anyway, so what's it really cost them?
Exactly. But other than that, the dope boys, they got plenty of dope.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose some, but they're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and that's how we would do it. It was pretty simple. And I was pretty good at what I did. I was a great talker. I had the gift of gab, and I had no problem buying dope.
Okay. How long did you do that?
About 2.5, 3 years worked in it. It was undercover operation. We did that. I did that along with actually my detective work too, as a normal detective. So I was jumping back and forth. We'd go out a lot in the middle of the night, doing buys.
But you don't do this in your county, right?
I did some in my county because these guys were coming out of state too. They didn't know.
So they don't know. You're not going to bump into them at Walmart.
Correct. So that lasted up until, actually, it leads me to what all happened. But the sheriff who was elected then, he was very impressed with what I've done and where I was headed. And I was, then I was in my 30s, early 30s. And he came to me one day and he's like, you're doing all this stuff and you could be me someday. And, he was in his 60s. And I said, well, I might be interested in that, but, you're going to be sheriff for a while. So probably a week after that talk, he dies of a heart attack.
Oh.
So I'm 34 years old.
Well, he kind of must have felt it was coming, right? To even have that conversation.
Well, I'm kind of wondering because why would he have that? It was kind of eerie and spooky. It was about a week prior. And and then there was rumblings. He had talked about it. You either run as a Republican or a Democrat in Sandusky County. And I was a Republican. He had me involved with the Republican Party because he had this idea. And I would go to the events and stuff. And then he passed away. And I thought, what am I going to do now, And the Republican Central Committee came to me. And they said, Sheriff Gangward had mentioned, hey, we'd like Kyle to someday, take over.
Right.
But you're only 34 years old.
Right.
What do you want to do? And I went then when I was married. I had 2 kids at the time. I had my son Dylan at the time too. I had a daughter and a son. And it was a big move to even think about doing that because you could lose your job because it's an appointed position. You get somebody else that gets mad at you, they're going to push you out of there.
Right.
So it came down between myself and a 30-year veteran.
Okay.
And in September of 2008, I ended up running a emergency appointment. It started out as an appointment to an election, and I won unanimously. They picked me over the 30-year veteran at 34 years of age.
Okay.
And at that age,
but am I understanding that? But that's to run.
I was then I had to run, and then
you still have to run,
and then nobody ran against me, which was nice.
Oh, okay.
So which was good.
Yeah,
because I think what they saw was, oh my gosh, they appointed this guy 34. He must have something.
Right.
So it gave me some clout, is what it did.
Okay.
And
but anybody could, like a regular citizen can run? No.
There are certain requirements in the state of Ohio. and they're very strict, and I had every one of them.
Oh, okay.
Everyone, even from a bachelor's degree to rank for so long, the sheriff was thinking what he wanted to do with me, and he lined me right up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I was a sergeant, a captain, and I had a college degree too on top of it. So it worked out great. So at 34, I was the youngest sheriff in the whole state of Ohio.
How long had you been a deputy at this point?
Well, from 96, and that was 2008, not very long.
Okay. Okay.
So not
96 to 90. That's about, so just over 10 years,
Yeah.
right? You said 96 to 98.
But
so
that's not
10,
that
12
long.
years.
That's not that long. 34 years old.
Right.
It's very unheard of, actually,
Right.
to run.
But it's not like you don't know how things are running.
Correct.
Like you
'Cause
don't
I
know-
worked in every division.
Right. I was gonna say, because if you come in after a year or two, you're like, I'm still not sure how any of this is really working. Like, how many police officers were there?
I had, I ran a jail. That was my thing. I had a jail, a detective bureau, a communication center, a civil office, and a detective bureau. I mean, I had a lot going on, man.
Is that 50 people?
Oh no, it's over 100.
Oh,
and
okay.
plus you have over 100 inmates. So
Okay.
it's 24/7 operation. My budget was over $4 million.
Right.
And I had to figure out how to budget that. I had, and then with my deputies, I had 2 unions, and I had to help negotiate unions every 3 years, and that was a pain in the ass.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything's going good.
Everything's going good. I'm married, 2 kids. The swearing in of it was huge. I mean, it was standing room only. People came out of the woodwork to come see me get sworn in as a new sheriff. It's a big hype. There hadn't been a sheriff, even though the one passed away. He was a great man. I mean, he supported me 1,000,000%. But when I came in, it was like, boom. I was on cloud 9. I'm not going to lie. I mean,
Right.
I started to get a big head, I mean, I started to get a big ego. I had things going on, but during that time was 2008. All the foreclosures were coming in. The budget, I had a big budget crunch. I had to cut like $300,000 out of my budget, which killed me.
Which is probably already strapped.
It was.
Right.
It was. But I didn't want to have to lay off deputies. So I had to figure out and think outside the box how I was going to figure things out. I mean, I even went as creative as I had my own inmate garden.
Right.
I had my inmates raising their own vegetables, helping feed them. I even had my own chicken coop there, to tell you
Right.
the truth. I did some pretty unique things where people were writing articles about it. I had the first ever Taxpayer Hero Award in the state of Ohio because I was saving money and rehabilitating inmates. And things were going really good. I mean, really good. And then during that time, I was diagnosed with arthritis in 2010. I broke both of my ankles as a kid. And it was agonizing all the time. I get sick and tired of it. I would go on like vacations with my wife and kids, and we'd go hike, and it would just kill me. So I ended up going to a specialist, and they gave me 105 Vicodin a month. And so I started taking those, and that was, good for the pain. And things were good for the first year or two, and but then came along what really screwed me up. One night, I just got home from vacation. We were down here in Florida, actually, tell you the truth, in Fort Myers with my wife and children. We get back on a Sunday and get a phone call that there's a man with a loaded shotgun in a home and going to kill his family. And, of course, they
In Ohio.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm back. And so they call the sheriff right away because it's
Right.
out in the county, and I have to handle it. So immediately I get my family home. I was with my family when I got the call, and I will never forget my daughter's like, "This sounds bad, Dad." I'm like, "Michaela, I've dealt with this stuff before. This is easy." Proceed. Can't get him out of the house. I got the SWAT team out there. He had just gotten out of prison not too long ago. He did a drive-by shooting and shouldn't even have a firearm, under the influence.
He's already in a shitload of trouble.
Correct.
And he doesn't want to go back to prison.
No. Can't get him out of there. So I'm like, we need to go and get him.
Right.
So even with myself, I went into. I'm trained. I know what I'm doing. If my men were going to go in, I'm going in with them. That was kind of like my rule of thumb.
Right.
And throw a flashbang in, we enter, he pulls a shotgun on us, and we kill him.
Right.
And that hit me pretty hard. And, of course, we didn't want to kill that guy, of course. And the family's upset with us. I'm upset. I'm like, man, this is all on me now. We didn't want to do that. He pointed a shotgun. Of course, I had to put the two guys that were ahead of me that actually pulled the trigger. I went in with them, but I didn't have to pull the trigger, but I was right with them.
Right.
Put them off on duty, until we got things figured out. We even had to go through a grand jury to find out if it was a justified shooting or not. It was a tough time. And I could never forget waking up that day, the next morning, because it went into late hours, because we were going to have a press conference in the media. I looked at myself in the mirror, and man, I was like, I can't believe this shit's going on. Because the family was they were mad at us. They protested twice up and down the state street, holding up signs. Kyle Overmyer, Brian's blood is on your hands. I mean, nasty stuff. The media was after us. We had a newspaper, a local newspaper, just crucified us, especially me, anytime they could get a chance.
The guy did a drive-by shooting. He's in the house with a shotgun. He will not come out.
Right.
What else? What were you supposed to do?
Well,
back off, let him slowly slip away.
Right. Or sleep it off. No, because we were going to still put him to danger. So we had all those questions that you're asking, Matt. And, it got to the point where we finally got justified in our shooting.
Right.
And I took care of my guys. I got them help. I got counselors and stuff. I didn't take care of myself. So, okay. I'm struggling with it. And then myself and the other deputies get a $20 million lawsuit slapped on us. So we're facing $20 million next.
This is from the family?
Yes, federally. It was a federal lawsuit. And so that's going on.
Who pays for your attorneys? Like, this is through the
county.
Okay.
But if the $20 million, they sued me personally too.
Right. But the county still, you thought you didn't have to go get your own lawyer.
No, I didn't. Okay. But if I would have found, I'll
right.
tell you.
But if you lose,
it's on me.
It's on you.
Correct.
Right.
And where am I going to get 20 mil?
Right.
So we're going through that, and then, ironically, another Sunday we get a call, and I'm still struggling with this, and trying to be a father, a husband, and the sheriff of a county. We get 3 kids that are fall through the ice in the mouth of the river. So I race out there. We get the boat out and that. We lose all 3 of the kids. They drowned in front of us. So what do? I get help for everybody else. I don't get help for Kyle. So between that and then my marriage is starting to struggle. The amount of Vicodin start to really climb.
Right.
As time went on, that 105 would only last maybe 2 weeks. It'd be gone. And so I had to figure out how to take care of Kyle Overmyer mentally. So, I didn't want to think I was an addict because the doctor was prescribing them. It wasn't like I was going on the street corner and saying, hey, I need a pill.
Yeah.
No. The doctor was giving it a trained physician who was educated.
I have a prescription.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a drug. So I got to the point where I had my jail doctor. I would manipulate him. I'd say, hey, I hurt my back. I graduated Percocets. They became my favorite thing. The little Percocets. I loved them. And then I would go from a couple different doctors, and everybody trusted me. I was the sheriff,
Right.
Who would ever think that the sheriff would be in it? But it was interesting because I could get a doctor so easy that I would text them, and they would text me back and say, go to my office. That script will be waiting. I didn't even have to go see them.
Right.
I got to the point. So
at that point, did your state have the requirements that the doctors notify the state database that
Yes.
they did?
The ORS report, yes. I'll talk. Yeah, I'll tell you about the.
I was going to say that. How do you think that's going to catch up with you?
Well, and I didn't think, because I thought I was Teflon, man. I thought I was Teflon. I was the sheriff. I was Kyle Overmyer. I mean, my ego got big, and I would get mine from a specialist. Then I would go to the multiple doctors. But shit, sometimes that would run out. So I had to start getting really creative. So we had this countywide take-back stuff where the community would come and throw away all the pills.
Right.
So we had like the hub there at the county because we were the main place, and they could get rid of their stuff there and store it. So I took it upon myself as the sheriff, because
Surprised you didn't come out with a program. We're looking for specifically Percocet 50s.
That's a good idea, Matt. I'll have to write that one down.
We're paying pharmaceutical prices for anybody that turns it. Really would like one. If you could just have one. If you could just drop off one. Sorry.
No, you're right. And so I went to the point where I went around personally to the agencies and said, here, I'll pick them up. I'll dispose of them.
You're just being a good guy.
I'm being a great guy.
Just people helping people.
Yeah. And I was really helping myself. I was like putting the kid that was putting his hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
And so I was getting high off that too. I had to. I mean, if not, I was going to get sick. I mean, I could tell. And I got so creative. I mean, and unfortunately, it, as you well know, and when you're in, I went from fighting crime to being in a life of crime, so to speak. I even started stealing from my parents. My parents, both of them went to pain, for pain management and stuff. I went as far as I knew when my dad would pick up his prescription. So I would, Dad, I'll go get it for you. I'm going to be a good son. And you know how they staple?
Yeah.
I carried a stapler in my car to,
bending the staple.
Exactly, to make it look,
lining up the.
I was so bad. I even did that. I mean, and figure out when my parents weren't home so I could go into their house and steal their pills. I mean, I was a real piece of work. I mean, lying, cheating, stealing. I mean, like my daughter, when she got her wisdom teeth pulled, I'll take care of the prescription.
I was going to say, Doc, you know what's what really works well with her?
Right. Percocets are better than Vicodin.
Percocets.
Yeah.
Those are really the crowd pleasers.
Right.
So
I mean, it just, I mean, I would never then would have said, I'm an addict.
Right.
I was in total denial. No, I couldn't be. Who in the hell would ever thought the sheriff of the county, especially me? I mean, I walked around with a Kool-Aid smile. Everybody thought I was of course. And of course I did, because I was high. But I mean, and it was interesting. I mean, I'd go for speaking engagements, Matt. I mean, I'd have pills in my uniform pocket. I mean, from the moment I woke up, I was taking Percocets until I went to bed.
Right. So, but then luckily you went to rehab and you kicked the habit, and now you're here talking to me, and that's the whole story.
I didn't go to rehab.
No, I know. I know. So how many times did you? So during this whole course, are you being reelected? Like you're still running?
Yeah.
You have to be reelected every so often.
I got reelected for 2 terms, 4 years apiece. Yeah, I was rolling. I was rolling strong, and living a life of a lie.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So during that time, using, and then on February 3rd, 2015, I go to pick up one of my prescriptions for my Vicodin. And everybody knows me. I go to the same pharmacy, and I go up. I'm here to pick up my script. And she says, hey, Kyle, can I talk to you over the side real quick? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm thinking,
this is a pharmacist?
Yes. And I know her, Leslie. She's a great woman. And she says, I want to talk to you aside. And I said, no, I want to talk to you aside. So I'm thinking, you know what? Somebody's probably buying Sudafed, and she's going to turn me on to something.
Fucking junkies.
Yeah, you're cooking meth. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
She says, hey, I got to call all those doctors you've been getting Vicodin and Percocets from. I said, huh? Now I played dumb and stupid, but my everything's down to my stomach. I'm like, holy shit.
So she's saying I have to call them.
Correct.
Okay.
And notify
because she looked it up or was notified
on what you were talking about.
Yeah.
The ORS report to show I was getting it from multiple doctors.
Right.
I had been red flagged. That's what they call it. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're done. You can't. This is done. So this scared me so much, Matt. I went home. I didn't tell anybody about this. I had one Vicodin left. And you know where that Vicodin went?
What? I mean,
down the toilet.
Okay.
I went cold turkey. And during that time when I was married to my first wife and my kids would go to school, because she was a school teacher, my kids would go to school. I'd put my uniform on like I was going to work. And she'd go to school. The kids would go to school. I'd turn around because I manipulated my schedule being the boss. I'd take my vehicle and pull it in the garage and put it down. And I'd come sleep in the mornings to detox myself.
Right.
I was a mess. I was going to meetings sometimes and I'd be nodding off because I was getting so sick because I didn't have the Percocets or the Vicodin anymore.
Right.
And I had to hide this. And I was researching stuff so much on the computer, like how can I get through this and stuff. Even like I was like desperate. But I stayed the course. I mean, I really stayed the course. So
how long did that take?
Oh my gosh. I mean, up until the big spot, I was still struggling mentally with it. So, I mean, several months. I mean, to get that out of your system, they say the fog of that takes 18 months for the opiates to get out of your brain. Okay. And I believe that. I can see that from what I went through. So that's 2015, and I'm coming up for reelection for the primary again. Well, Kyle, I'm pretty, I'm still out there being myself. I'm cocky. I'm doing my thing. Nobody not figuring anything out.
Well, wait a minute. What about the report? So it got red flagged. Like, has it been shifted to the DEA or anything?
Nothing. No, listen, not yet or nothing. So what happened was then I'm getting ready to run for re-election again. Well, I was a Twitter guy too. And so I'm on Twitter. I go by Young Sheriff.
Right.
I had fun and I had rappers follow me, porn stars. I was following porn stars. One of my favorites was Jenna Jameson. And she even reached out to me, to tell you the truth, because her father was a cop in the crazy. So this gets thrown out in the media when I'm running for that sheriff of the county follows porn stars. Oh, my God. My wife was just like, what is wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they're human too. They're making money. They're paying taxes.
Her dad was law enforcement.
Yes. So
Jamerson, who? I didn't know.
Yes. And so I did. I said,
that's such a nice person.
So I said, I must have accepted or followed him by mistake. They had articles about it trying to ruin me. Well, actually, people were coming up to me saying, hey,
yeah,
I like you, man.
Yeah.
You're human. You're cool. I watch porn and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I like that rapper. You know what I mean? These guys, I was getting street cred out of it, actually.
Right.
So I go into
probably not voters, but
I did. No. Listen to this. I win the primary.
Right.
62% of the votes.
Okay.
A landslide. I still got the newspaper article of it showing it on the landslide. They tried to crush me. And I'm like, well, I'd rather them try to crush me with that than my dirty little secret.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's getting time, and my marriage is rocky. But of course, I hide that because you want to be the all-American sheriff and family man and, want nobody to know anything. I'm still struggling mentally. I'm not going to lie. I mean, am I still thinking about Percocets every damn day?
Right.
I mean, there's still, like sugar plums dancing in my head, And I hate to say it, but they were. And
I can just see the TikTok now where it's a picture of him. The guy puts little sugar plum. Go ahead.
But I'm running then for the general. I get a phone call.
The general election,
because then I have two more opponents coming.
Okay.
And that's coming up close to the fall. And I get a phone call from prosecutor.
The state prosecutor?
The county prosecutor.
Okay.
He's like, hey, we need to talk. And I'm like, and I get along with him great. I mean, we're cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, so He's like, come up my office. So
Oh man.
I'm like, what's up? Man, they're looking into you, dude. I'm like, why? Well, they're gonna run this ORS report on you. They said, yeah. I'm like, nah, man, no. I'm still in denial.
Yeah.
I'm holding to my story. No, I said, you know what? They're out to get me. Somebody wants my job bad. I said they already tried the porn star thing. That didn't work, so they're going to try this now. So I go with the flow. Well,
It's the deep state.
huh?
It's the deep state.
Yeah. So I'm going. I'm in denial. Shit ain't gonna happen to me. I still think I'm Teflon. And they put the dogs out. They started really combing and doing it. And I'm getting phone calls and they're investigating you, okay? And then August 23rd, 2016 comes. They were going to take it all to a grand jury. I didn't know what they had. I thought I had it in the bag. So we had our first day of our opening county fair, the
Right.
Sandusky County Fair, which is a big thing for anybody that's an elected official goes. I'm there for the ribbon cutting. I'm in my uniform, shaking hands, kissing babies, being the great sheriff I am. And I got myself an attorney too, because in case something happened. Day goes through.
I understand nobody's come to talk to you. Like, other than you getting the tip-offs, it's not like an investigator ever came to say, like,
Oh, they did
hey.
one time.
Oh, they did?
And guess what?
Okay.
They gave me an option. And what they did, they said, if you can take a drug test, we'll drop that. Well, I did. I took a drug test and passed. It was after I got clean. And I
Right.
was clean at that time when they were started to sniff around. And they didn't drop it.
You're not. I'm not going to sit here and
you know the deal.
I'm not
You've
going
been
to
through the ringer,
sit here
man.
and listen to you say that their prosecutor would lie or not live up to their obligations.
Right. I get it.
It's not in this government. No.
You know the deal.
Yeah.
So
Like they don't do anything. Nothing they're doing is to help you. Like, well, if you take a lie detector test, like you're not trying to clear me.
Oh.
Like if I pass it, you'll drop everything. Yes, we will, because they're really just trying to hem you up.
they threw that option at me too, and I said no, I'm not. That's voodoo. I ain't
Yeah.
messing with it. And they don't
it
hold
wouldn't
up in
matter
court.
anyway.
It doesn't hold up in court, and it doesn't matter.
It wouldn't matter anyway.
No.
If you passed it, that's all everybody thinks. Well, if I take it, I passed it. They said they'll drop it or it'll prove. No, it won't. They'll just say you beat it.
Right. You beat it somewhere.
Right. They only say take this so that you hem yourself up so they can use it to get a confession. Take a drug test so that he fails it so we can get a confession. Yeah, but what if he beats it? Doesn't matter. Then he got clean. We're going to go forward. Like no matter what, they're going forward with their theory. They're not trying to exclude you.
Right.
That's why we want you to talk to us so we can exclude you.
I agree.
Yeah. Stop it.
Well, so August 23rd, 2016, ribbon cutting. That night at 6:30, I get a phone call. You better turn yourself in. I said, what's up? They got a 43 count indictment on you. I don't know how many numbers you have.
I mean, it was a lot.
Probably that many.
Donald
Trump just got 34.
I was
so
going to
I
say,
got 43.
I'm sure
Switch the numbers
there was
around.
tons of them. There was lots of them.
Yeah.
But you plead guilty, and they say, look, if you plead guilty, we'll take these 16 and condense them to 1, and these 4 and condense them to 1, and these 12 and condense them to 1. And then it ends up being like, still in my case, it was like 12.
Yeah. Well, actually, we'll talk about that. It's interesting. So they locked me up. I went in, turned myself in. They locked me up.
You're the sheriff
I know.
in your county.
They booked me there, and then they took me to adjacent county.
What is the fucking staff doing? They got to be walking around going
They were
holy shit.
They were like, oh, they felt uncomfortable because they really liked me. They respected me. I was a good boss.
Right.
And I always treated my guys right. And so I go to court hearing the next day. They give me $150,000 bond, and I'm still holding true to it. I'm telling my family, this is bullshit. I'm not an addict. This is, I wasn't doing this, blah, blah, blah. I got arthritis. And I bond out. And this is a time of reelection. I keep rolling. I keep rocking and rolling.
Can you believe what my...
And that's what I did.
Nice.
And they came out and they asked me what my comment is. I said, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
And I was ready. So I got out. I continued to do debates And I did great in the debates. And people would bring stuff up, and I knew how to sidestep it. I was a manipulator, you know? I mean, I was a drug addict, so I knew how to manipulate everything. I was a con man. So the next thing I did was the parades. I marched and I would walk those parades, and it was crazy, Matt. It was like something out of a movie. People were coming off their porches, hugging me, saying, "I'm praying for you. You got my vote. We're going to support you to the end." I mean, people were supporting me. They
Can you imagine? You're in. You get picked up, and like 2 days later, you're in your jail cell, and the guard comes by and says, "You won." What? Sorry.
No, but it was crazy. People were supporting me. We were doing. I had a crew that was helping me, a team, and doing like phone calls, like who you'd vote for.
Yeah.
My numbers were through the roof. So
This is like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like indicting him is the biggest mistake you could have made.
It made me more popular. It was crazy. So I'm doing all that. I'm still acting crazy. I got a girlfriend.
Right.
I got a girlfriend, and
You got a girlfriend at this time, or you had her prior to this?
I had one prior, and I'm out, and of course I'm still out catting around like an idiot. And
I'm assuming the wife's not okay with this.
she don't know nothing about it.
Okay.
Okay.
What did the girlfriend work at the?
No.
No.
No connection to it at all.
Just
no.
a
Like they always
waitress
say,
that you came
don't-
across or
don't-
something, or
you don't shit where you eat.
Right. Okay.
No, somebody that I knew from before and worked at a different company, and still doing my thing, thinking that I'm on top of the world and I'm going to beat this. I'm going to beat this.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say things are not looking good.
Well,
I mean,
there's turning points, Matt.
I mean, you know, when you start getting the phone calls, you know, and it starts really, and then there's the indictment, and a lot of people would have said things are not going well.
But you know what? I think my ego got the most.
No,
Maybe
no,
this
that's
much.
not true.
Maybe this much, Matt. Okay.
My God, don't say it's not so. Go ahead. Okay, so what happened?
So it's getting time. It's getting November. My son's going to be 13, and he wants a crossbow because he wants to go deer hunt. We had went through a hunter safety course together. So I went out and bought him a crossbow, and I get a phone call from my attorney, and they say, he says, "Hey, did you buy a crossbow for your son for his birthday?" I said, "Hell yeah, I did." He says, "You know, you signed that paper of no dangerous weapon.
It's a crossbow.
You're going to be getting a subpoena for."
Oh my God!
I said, "For what?" And I said, "I don't even possess it right now." He goes, "I don't care." I said, "I took it to my father-in-law's." He said, "I don't care."
It doesn't matter.
He said, "They need to hear. They're going to do a hearing with you, and they want to revoke your bond."
Who is this prosecutor?
And
Is this guy just totally?
it was a female, and I said, "Revoke what? Come on!" And he's like, "No, they're gonna." So November 3rd was the hearing. I go to take my son to school. He says, and I'll never forget this, he's like, "Dad, am I going to see you after school?" I said, "Dylan, I got this." I said, "Watch me. I got this, Dylan. I'll see you after school."
Oh.
So I go to the hearing, and they put me through the ringer. They had all kinds. They had followed me and everything else, and they had a good eye on me. And I think, of course, I think somebody was telling all my moves. Who knows who it was, but they ended up revoking my bond on November 3rd, 2016. Put $250K on me, no 10%. You got to have the cash. And I couldn't come up with $250K. I mean, I had a couple guys that could have put some stuff together. So they took me to a couple county over jail. Of course, I went in there. I knew people. I mean, they knew who I was.
They can't put you in general population.
It was a general pop. They didn't think they would know me over there. But I did. I ended up breaking bread with the dude anyhow and made some ramen noodles. So, so I'm pretty good at that stuff. So I'm there and I'm like, you know what? It's time. So this is where I actually surrendered. This was my breaking point, that I had to deal with my addiction. And the truth, if I was going to have any kind of relationship with my children and my parents, my mom stayed like to this day. I talked to her on my way here. I mean, she was the ride or die.
Yeah.
And I told my mom, and my mom knows there's addiction in our family. I broke the news to her, kind of told my dad, even though my dad and I just never totally saw eye to eye. He was proud of me for being sheriff, but there was always just that wall between us, you know what I mean? That could never be broken. But my mom was good. I never could admit to my wife then at first, and my children. So I'm figuring this out, talking to my attorney, and so I strike a deal. I strike a 12-count deal. 12-count felonies.
Right.
You just talked about.
Yeah.
And
He served over a decade in federal prison for bank fraud, and he still owes the government $6 million in restitution, but he's good for it. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crime, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
so I began to sit down. I went to my first AA meeting in there. That was the only thing I could do anything for self-help.
Right.
And I'm like, I got to do something with myself. I got to go get some treatment. I'm still struggling mentally. My ego's out of control. I was in denial, and this shit's got to stop if I'm gonna like have a life and see my family. So I wrote a letter to the judge. I had like probably 30, 40 support letters from the community, from people that were very well respected. And I go December 13th, 2016. They take me back, and the judge, the room was crowded with media. That was a high profile case.
Yeah.
They even had a live camera on my residence to see what was going on in my house, live at Kyle Overmyer's house. It was crazy. A TV van and the judge says, what do you have to say for yourself? And I said, I'm an addict. I need help, and I'm sorry. I love my children. She told me I didn't love my children. She told me I was a narcissist, and you know what? Basically,
The judge was female?
Yes. And I turned around to all the media, and I apologized to everybody for, everything I've done, and I lied and manipulated. She says, you know what, Mr. O, I'm going to give you the best treatment in the state of Ohio if you need treatment. I'm sending you to prison for 4 years.
Yeah, because they'll help you there.
Yeah. And I thought, holy shit, what am I going to do now?
What did you think was going to happen? What was your lawyer saying?
He didn't say anything.
No, I'm saying, what did he say? What did he say to expect? I'm saying
he didn't really tell me. He didn't really tell me. It was, at the end, we kind of broke off, and I didn't get any really good vibe or advice from him at the end.
How long had the doctor shopping been going on?
They went all the way back when I first started getting prescriptions.
So is this 2 years? 6 months?
They charged me 6 years back.
6 years?
Every time I went to the doctor, every time they handed me a prescription, the paper, and then every time I went and filled it, they triplicated all the charges. And they got me with theft in office because I had a fund that they said, of course, they'll do this too. They got into my fund, it was an FOJ, and charged me with all this because I used a credit card not enough miles away to use a hotel, which I didn't actually use the hotel. It was one of my workers, but I signed for it and all these other things. They charged me with that. I had to plead to that. I paid all the money back, $21,000 I paid. They got me for all this. They went back and they said I should have used it out of a different fund line, and I used it out of this fund line. So they charged it for theft in office. I didn't physically steal money, but they said because you used it, they can charge you with theft in office.
You're making it sound like the justice system is unfair.
Well, I think there's a little tilted scale sometimes, but and they charge me with not, because in ethics, being the sheriff, you have to everything that you're like any kind of credit cards that your account. I forgot to write down a credit card that I owed $150 on, and they dinged me for that too, a personal credit card. So I got 43 count indictment. I got to 12. 4 years, and then off to solitary confinement for 30 days. Was my first 30 days, was in the hole.
Okay, so
Well, wait, let me backtrack. I get to where I'm supposed to go for 2 days, and I get on the phone with my then wife and kids, and they say, my wife's crying, my kids are upset, crying, they're all on the phone. They said, and you love another woman. And I said, what? And they said, your jail phone calls have been played. You got a girlfriend. So they had taken my jail phone calls and played them in the media to not only crush me, but they buried me. They tried to bury me. They wanted me to break physically, mentally, everything you can think. They did. And I know they did. Why else would they have put those phone calls? Look, the guy's going to do 4 years. He's lost his life.
I was going to say, why isn't losing your job and having to pay the money back, getting sentenced to 4 years, why isn't that enough for this prosecutor? Like, I don't understand. What's the problem with the prosecutor? Was there animosity between the two of you?
No,
I
I never knew her before. I didn't know her, but it was just, I think that they thought I was pretty arrogant, which I could see that.
Right.
Was I an addict? Yes. Did I do those acts? Yeah, I took responsibility for it. But that's how my wife then and kids found out, and from that point, it was tough. I didn't talk to them for like 30 days because you're in the hole. I didn't get any phone calls.
Right.
And it came at Christmas time, which is unfortunate.
Bro, like
You ever do whole time stuff?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, you know what the deal is.
I came out on the newspaper that I was bribing bribed a politician, and that I was talking to the FBI about it. So on the newspaper at the Medium where they're stabbing each other, snitch, front page. Not good. It's not good. I only did like 45 days.
Yeah, you got me by 15.
Yeah.
I did like 30, and then
But I'd already been acclimated. You came off the street practically.
and then I went right to the hole.
Right. I'd been locked up a year or two, about 2-3 years before that. So I was already
Yeah.
So mentally, I'm already okay with hanging out by myself for 45 days and reading books, as opposed to coming off the street. Like the shock to your ego that has to be is crushing. You know, like I would see guys that came in that were multimillionaires, for instance, come into a jail, and they take it harder than the guy who lives in the project who's been in and out of jail all the time, or some guy who's been. It's much, much harder on these guys because they can't believe that the guards are talking to them like this. They can't believe that they're eating slop with these people that couldn't get through the gate at their, in their gated community, so they're just like in shock.
Yeah. It was interesting, but the only time when it's time to eat, you hear the concrete, the wheel, and the concrete.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no clock, no nothing.
No, there's no Apple Watch.
No. Well, I did see Apple Watches in prison. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're locked up in that little room. You don't know dark. You kind of know when it's light.
Correct, but barely.
Barely. Yeah, I was going to say, depends on where the building is, how much light hits that window that you can't see through. I used to say that, like, I knew the day had gone by when it was like, you just count the meals.
Right, and that's how I went by. And during that time, I laid in there. Of course, my life was taken from me, my children. I mean, that's all that mattered to me. I mean, really. I mean, I had to get it through my thick skull in there. What the hell was I going to do with myself? And I'm like, am I going to be a better criminal? Or am I going to get my shit straight? Because I got 4 years to do.
Well, you're not a very good criminal because, you knew the report was being made.
Yeah, but I didn't think, I didn't think it was going to catch up with me.
That's not a good criminal. Like you
so that's why I'm not a criminal today, I guess.
Right. I was going to say, that's, yeah.
So I did my time, and then I get out, and, of course, like any other person would do, I apologized to, the first phone call was to my wife then and kids, and it was going to be over with because, I cheated on her, I cheated, infidelity, and I didn't blame her. She's a great woman. She's a great mother. And, I did wrong. So, of course, the divorce process was started while I was in prison. I got my divorce papers while I was in prison.
Right.
You know how I told my son, I'll see you afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter?
Yeah.
No, not for 4 years.
Really?
No. They didn't want to see me in that capacity. And you know what? I don't blame them, Matt. Who wants to see their father like that?
Yeah.
And so I talked to him every day. And I built that relationship every day. Talk to my mom, ride or die. No more girlfriend. That broke off. I had to, because if you start anything from a bad position, it's only going to get worse.
Right.
So why continue that? You
Yeah.
know? So that broke off. And I started working on Kyle Overmyer every day. I journaled. The first day, of course, I jumped off the bus. Everybody knew I was coming. Everybody, in there, everybody. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like they got their own phones. Hey, Kyle Overmyer's coming. Matt Cox is coming. So they were like, hey, come here, man. I know what's up, man. Hey, I want to be your friend and that. And I'm like, what? And he's like, hey, you want a Subutex? I heard you like perks. We got
What a dick.
Yeah, I'm like, it was his gang member. I still today remember. I looked him up the other day. He's still in there doing life for murdering his girlfriend. He'll never get out. And I said, no, I'm cool, man. And that's probably would have been my breaking point. That would have been my breaking point. I came in, they sent me to protective custody at first. Mm-hmm. I met some good guys in there. I started to learn the ropes, who the store man was. I'm sure you knew what a store man was, got acquainted with them, got, everybody I knew, the weed man ended up being the barber who I got really close with, but I didn't do any drugs, but he had been in there for 25 years for murder, but he taught me a lot before he left. Actually, he was in the riots of, Ohio had riots in 93, and he was in the riots. And so he taught me a lot. And I started to understand how to move while I was in there in prison and how to be an inmate.
So, okay, you're a drug guy who's locked up with murderers. Mm-hmm. Like how
it's interesting because it continued.
Like I was gonna say, you would think that would be a lot of times they'll move you into like a where they kind of group you into different people and they ship you off to a different prison that's like, hey, This is really for this guy. Or those guys had been there so long they'd worked their way down, they knew they just weren't in any trouble.
Well, that was in protective custody because there were some of them at first. So I was in there for a few months, and then in protective custody, I don't know if you know anything about it, it's controlled movement.
Yeah.
And from doing your time, you want to be able to move. You want to be able to live.
Yeah. The controlled movement sucked.
It sucked. So I signed up to sign out, and they were like,
that could be a problem. That could go bad quick.
Dude, did you really? And they like, and the warden was cool. He was like, do you really want it? I said, I want to do it. He goes, if you do this, you can't ever come back. I said, that's cool. I said, I'm good with that.
How long were you locked up before you did that?
Oh, I can't remember. It was like, I don't know, 6-8 months. But
okay.
I had 4 years to do. So I went from protective custody to general, but I got tried by somebody. It was funny. It was a gang member, and not any gang members that I got along with, but he kept coming in the day room. You know how they'll come in the day room. He kept barking, and he caught me on a bad day. He wanted to bark at me and call me out. I said, let's go. And so, of course, go in the cell. I have my my bunkie do 6'5" for me. Is that what you guys call it? 6'5", lookout. It must be Ohio talk.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I let him go on first, of course. Bang, bang, bang. Took care of him. And I got respect after that. So there was no issue.
How many people are in this prison?
Ooh. There's several hundred in there. Because there's the floors. And you know what's interesting in General Pop? I continued to be in there with people for murder and stuff. Actually, one of them that was in there, he had 11 bodies in one day. He was called the Easter Bunny Killer. Look him up. He just died. His last name's Rupert. He's got an interesting story in Ohio. He was in there for. He lived around the corner from me. He sat and read the Wall Street Journal all the time.
Was it a mass shooting?
He killed his whole family.
With what? A gun?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, it was on Easter, so they called him the Easter Bunny Killer.
That's clever.
He was in there with me.
That's clever.
Yes, isn't that interesting? So, yeah, he lived. One of my bunkies was a gang member. He shot tattoos. And my first Father's Day when I was in there, when he did, I had him shoot my kids' names on him in honor of him. Yeah, I had to bring home. I know, maybe you did. A
memento.
Yes, souvenirs.
Yeah.
So I got those, and he would have the. He did great work. He was in a gang, and we'd always hide that tattoo gun in the wall, and nobody'd ever find it. And so I think I paid him like 20 ramen noodles for it, for about 2 tattoos. I got a great deal, So I brought that home. My workout partner, like my first workout partner in there, he was a blood that was a Muslim too. And I'm Christian, and I got intrigued by his religion. So I'm like, look, you're praying all the time before we go work out, and you got a rug and everything.
Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. So I'm like, you got an extra Quran? He's like, why? I go, I want to read that thing. I want to know what your religion's about so I can understand you. He's like, sure. So he gives me a Quran. Well, comes up March 22nd, and it's Ramadan.
Right.
So what do? I fasted for 30 days with him too. I did Ramadan. I wanted the full effect to understand his religion and respect it and not get so close-minded while I was in prison about people.
Right.
So I could understand every culture. So I started to experience that, worked out a lot. There was only a couple programs in there that you could do for anything for like drug rehab, which were everybody that was in that, they would drug test you every week. And guess who was the only one that never come up positive? Me.
Right.
So spent my time doing that.
So the judge was right. You're all
right.
better. A lot of there's programming.
Yeah,
they
even
help.
though I was seeing people smoking crack and shooting heroin,
Right.
and it didn't matter, And so, I mean, I tried to experience and educate like you did yourself. I went back to college again while I was in there. I could with a community college. It was for actually substance abuse and addiction, which now I just finished it up at home. I'll have my CDCA, which is a chemical dependency counseling license, where I can be a licensed therapist with my bachelor's degree. So I figured I'm just going to spend my time wisely while I was in there, and I got a free education.
Right.
Then they had, which is an interesting story while I was in there, Black History Month. So they had an essay contest. So guess who wrote an essay?
Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote an essay. You like this story?
What was the essay?
The essay was, I wrote about Martin Luther King while he was in jail in Alabama. So I get a knock at my door.
He was also a Republican.
He was.
He was.
Yes. And he was investigated by the FBI too. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yes. So I wrote that, and I get a knock on my door, and the woman comes, and she's like, I'm looking for Overmyer 692183. And I'm like, that's me. And she's like, no, God, I must have the wrong room. And I'm like, no, that's me. So and she's like, you're white. And I'm like,
still allowed to enter the contest.
yep. So I got a free chicken dinner out of it. And
Nice.
And she was like,
Chicken dinner. That's just wrong.
I know.
Fried chicken?
fried chicken too.
So wrong.
And it's kind of symbolic. It was Lee's famous recipe, and I'll talk about that next in the story. So, and I'm not trying to advertise for him, but great chicken. So, I might get a sponsor. So, anyhow, she apologized. She's like, "Hey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been like that, being judgmental." So, end up doing that, but then I end up ironically back with an old college friend.
Right.
And
this is the guy you worked out with?
he was the next one, because then the other one shipped off to another prison. The other guy shipped off to another prison. So I ended up in college, University of Toledo, when I was into bodybuilding and that. I had a friend there. His name's Greg. And I ended up back with him. I had met when he was 19 years old. He was doing 10 years for manufacturing steroids. So ironically, we end up back together and general population together, and we're workout partners, which ended up being good because we're good support system for each other. We're pretty sound mind, and we pretty much have the same idea. We're going to get the hell out of here, and we're never coming back.
Right.
So Greg and I end up back and forth together. And then also during that time, somebody got a hold of me on JPay, which is the email system, a girl. And then I started seeing some other girl, which...
While you're in prison?
Correct. Yes. Of course, you get lonely, you know?
Yeah.
So I end up with striking a relationship with another hometown girl, you know, going through a divorce, thinking that's going to be the one because you're thinking that because you're locked up and that's all there is.
Yeah.
And
well, you're in a desperate situation. Just anybody that pays attention to you is like they become all consuming.
Because you're connected to the outside
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
And you're always thinking about what's going on in the outside world. But then most of the time you're trying to pretend like you are in the outside world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because, you know, you did time. You get it. You do think about what the hell is going on out there while I'm in here. But you got to shut that shit out. So I got involved with her for a while. Then when I get out, I stay with her for a short time. That falls through, boots me out. I'm homeless.
Right.
I got out April 6th, 2020 was my official date, and I'm on parole. And I'll never forget going by this dollar store. I'll never forget this. Calling my parole officer. I got 6 bags of old clothes going, I'm homeless and I know I need a residence. What do I? And she's like, get me something because I don't want to send you back, you know?
Right.
And she was really good with me.
So they didn't send you to a halfway house?
I did do the halfway house for a short time, not long. At the end. And then,
Okay.
then that's where I ended up with her.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
then I ended up homeless. Yeah, the
Okay.
halfway house was a mess too.
Yeah.
That's just a joke.
Yeah.
And you know.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah,
I would have rather done, if I didn't need the money to save money in the halfway
I
house,
would have rather done my time.
I'd rather done time in prison.
Yeah. You might as well just be
Yeah.
locked up. It's a mess. So I don't know where I'm going to go, but then there were these 2 women that actually were dating in that, and I had known the woman, her and her girlfriend would send me cards in there. They were older women, and they really supported me after I went away. And I was on one of the community college boards. I was one of the board of directors, and I got to know her. She worked in the library, and she became very fond of me, and I was always good to her. And I knew she had a couple rental properties, and I'm like, oh, maybe she'd let me just flop in one. I call her. I'll never forget calling her when I'm got my 6 garbage bags, and she's like, I don't have anything, but I got a spare bedroom with an air mattress. You can flop on it. So
Right.
it was a place to flop. So I flopped there. I call my parole officer. She's like, okay, I can cover you. At least you got an address. So I got an ankle monitor on too. They had me on an ankle monitor too when I got out. One of those big
Clunky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I go there, I flop there, and I need a job. So who the hell is going to hire the disgraced sheriff in his own county? So I had a friend who owned 2 Lee's famous recipe chicken places.
Okay.
And that's how ironic that was what you got in prison is.
Right.
So I get a hold of Larry, and Larry is a super good guy. He's the most outside the box thinker you'll ever meet. He'll take the shirt off his back for you. So I call Larry. I says, Larry, I need a job, man. And he says, $9.50 an hour, you can start frying chicken. I said, I'm there. So I go, I'm back in my hometown where I used to go with my deputies to eat chicken.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in there frying chicken, you know, doing my thing. A lot of people coming in and out, and people start taking pictures of me.
Mm-hmm.
People that I used to work with in the community.
Right.
They start putting them out on Facebook, making jokes out of me. I mean, really, it was kind of disgusting. And they wanted to crush me.
Right.
They did the wrong thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like if you think that you're gonna say something or take a picture of me and humiliate me, I've already been to prison.
Yeah.
Like, this is nothing. You think I can't take some shit? I've been talked to like I was a fucking dog.
Yeah, right. I was a number.
Right. Like, you posted your picture and made your comment.
Yeah.
Like, good for you, bro.
I mean, and so they even did that to me. And one thing I forgot to talk about, when I was in prison, I had a lieutenant that had a hard-on for me in prison, too, because who I was. I don't know if you guys had the same rules. You had to keep all your vitamins in the same bottle that you purchased them in.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
If not, it was contraband. Well, I had a few vitamins that were mixed into another one. They did a cell shakedown. Guess what? I got charged with a contraband ticket. And the next day, guess what? I call home to talk to my kids.
Right.
And
they mailed it home?
Listen, even worse. Kids said, "We just read the newspaper. You're back using drugs again."
Oh, my God. Fucking
I said,
scumbags.
"What?"
Fucking scumbags.
I said,
right?
"No, what are you talking about? You got caught with pills and they think they're prescription." I said, "Listen," and I mean, I took everything for them to believe me. And finally, I'm like, I went to the warden's. I'm like, "Look, this is wrong." So what they did is they went and took the prison nurse, and they compared them because I got them off commissary.
Right.
Well, finally, and it had and I'm like, "Look, this has ruined things with my kids. I've been staying clean. Look what I've put my family through."
Right.
They did that, and I'm sure it was him. He leaked that. They leaked that ticket.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had, I mean, there wasn't probably a month that went by while I was in for 4 years that there wasn't an article about me. They still continued those articles, but it took forever for them to understand, my kids, that I was clean.
Right.
I mean, they tried to wreck me. And then I go out now back to working, frying chicken, and these people are still trying to crush me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you better have more than that to get me.
Yeah.
So I was still flopping at the woman's house, and her name's Deb. Great woman. Love her to death. She's like my second mom. And she wanted me to stay forever. She's like, "You can stay here forever. I love your company. I bring your breakfast home. I bring your chicken home." I was good to her, She
Right.
goes, "You know what? If you're going to let me live there for free and you gave me a place to lay my head, okay." So I was like, it came to a point where I'm like, look, I got to do something. I got to put some money together and get out and try to get back on my feet. And during that time, to cope with my addiction, I was going to a lot of NA meetings too, Narcotics Anonymous. So I'm going to a lot of meetings. People knew who I was. They embraced me, of course, at Narcotics Anonymous. And I ended up meeting a guy that was running a facility up in Sandusky, Ohio. And he says, "Hey, why don't you stop over tomorrow and, maybe we could work out something for a job for you." I was making $9.50 an hour frying chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, "Well, I got to get approved." I said, because I got an ankle monitor and, I got to get over there. And so I did. And he gave me an opportunity to work midnight shift looking over the people in the facility, kind of babysitting,
Yeah.
for $11.50 an hour to get a better job. So as time went on, I got enough money to scrape together. And guess where I went and got an apartment at? In the hood where I used to kick doors in.
Right.
That's all I could afford.
Right.
So I started living in the hood.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I stayed in the spare room for 18 months before I could save up enough to get an apartment.
Yeah. So I was there. I left frying chicken. They celebrated the day. They thought they were proud of me. I mean, really, they were. They got me balloons, a teddy bear. I still got the picture of it,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I had long hair. I was a lot heavier. I mean, I looked like a different person. And I went from there, working over there, and then I started really coming out, talking about my shit.
Right.
And I publicized it. And I think a lot of people wanted me to run in shame, and I owned it instead of renting it.
Yeah.
And
It's a mistake to hide.
Right.
And I'm sure the newspaper that was running all those stories, I bet they did a big article on you and
About when I, yes.
how did they?
They did.
A decent one?
A decent one.
Oh, okay. I thought
Because-
I was going to say, I thought they were going to be like, oh, we're not interested in that.
No, after time went on, because I started sharing my story on Facebook.
Right.
And I started helping people. People were reaching out to me. I was getting them into drug treatment. I was working up at this place. And a couple of newspapers reached out and they wanted to. I even got I got a nice letter from a U.S. senator. Actually sent me, saying, "Hey, I see what you're doing with yourself." I was shocked, And then, I was divorced. I was building the relationship back up with my kids, which was going pretty good. And dating a few other couple girls here and there. And then from April of 2020, then April 22nd, 2020, my world changed. I met Jennifer, and she reached out to me because of my story and because of a mutual friend. We started dating, and 6 weeks later, we got married. I know, crazy.
That's how long. So how long ago was that? How long have you been married?
A little over 2 years now.
Nice.
And so I was going to live in Fremont and commute down to Columbus, Ohio until I could find something. 6 days after we got married, I got a phone call when I'm eating pizza. Some guy who owned a treatment center saw me on Facebook, offered me a job in Columbus working in business development. So I went from $11.50 an hour or working in a treatment center to actually having a decent job. And then her and I started figuring things out and saying, if you're going to do this thing full go and talk about this thing and get out to people, we started the organization called KO Addiction.
Okay.
And
I saw the hat.
Yeah. So yes, you need to market more.
You need a hat.
Matt. Yeah, those are definite. And no, I started going out, sharing my story and helping people in treatment. I went from one facility now to another one where I'm a regional director and helping open a behavioral hospital, and then doing podcasts with you.
Right.
And staying clean.
Right. I interviewed a guy. Remember the guy? Was he in California? Where was the guy that runs a treatment center?
He was in Denver.
Was he in Denver?
I remember throughout all the prisons or something.
Yeah. Well.
They leave prison to go.
They leave prison to go there. Yeah. I have to get you his number. He's got an interesting treatment center where literally like the guys go there and they work like for free. It's almost kind of like the Salvation Army, where it's like you work here, you're basically getting paid nothing.
No, that's
and literally like some of the guys there were such addicts and had not been able to recover ever, that literally after being there, like it's like, I forget, it was like an 18-month or 2-year program or something. And then when they get to that point where he's like, okay, well, I mean, like, you've completed the program, you can go. They're like, they don't want to leave. They're like, is there any way I can stay?
Wow.
And it's like, they're like, because although, or the ones that do, they have like a huge recovery rate, they have a huge amount of people that are recovered, but a ton of them, like, they just don't want to even leave because they're like, this is such a good environment for me. Even though he said he also has the guys that come in, they're like, man, they're not paying me, they're not this. He's like, well, you can leave.
Right.
Like, you don't have to stay, but this is the program because your little 6-week course doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, what do you want me to do? You want me to go do an 8-week course? It's not going to fucking change you.
No.
Like, that's not going to,
No.
You need, and then, of course, I think he has where they keep coming. The guys that do leave, they come back for continuous treatment because it's like AA. It's like like you have to keep going back all the time. The moment you start saying, I don't need it anymore, well, that's a problem.
Well, yeah, and to go with that, I don't regularly go to meetings anymore.
Right.
I've been clean for over 8 years. I go talk to somebody a couple times a month, though.
Right.
I mean,
Well, I mean, to think you've got it licked is a mistake, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Like, you need to constantly, like that's to me, it's like if somebody brings up prison or anything, like I never shy away from saying, oh, bro, listen, I was in prison, I did this, I don't try and cover it at all because I feel like that's just not good. Mentally, that's not good. It's not a good.
No, that's why I always say, look, I screwed up, and that's why I try to take full responsibility for everything I did, and that's probably why I didn't have a hard time frying chicken in front of everybody.
Yeah,
because you know what, I screwed up, and you know what,
it's just part of it. This is just part of it.
It's the cost of doing business,
right?
And you're going to move forward. If you don't like it, don't talk to me.
Yeah, no, I think that humility like helps you be so appreciative of life, as opposed to having all your shit together and making a bunch of money and having all these people. Like that's, a lot of times like that narcissism and that ego is what, like, I always say, like, ego, like my pride has gotten into me into more trouble. Every bad decision I've ever made was because of pride. Every single decision.
I believe that.
Every bad decision anyway.
I think my ego was the biggest problem with my addiction. I mean, if you think about it, man,
right.
Because that 43 count indictment was because of my ego. Because you know what? I should have asked for help.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you could have said to yourself, if you could have admitted to yourself, I'm not perfect, I'm not bulletproof, I have problems, I'm not this perfect individual, and there's an issue here, you could have fucking headed off all that shit. You could have said, hey, I'm sure that your benefits would have paid for you to go for 30 or 60 days to a program. You know what I'm saying? If you'd gone in and said, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's the problem. I got a fucking problem. I need to fix it. I got to go to a fucking rehab. Right. But instead you're like, I don't fucking need any help. I'm good.
Well, just like what you said, the pride got in front of me. And you know what? I couldn't ask for it. And could I do it today? Probably, because I don't want to be that guy again. And do I believe that people can change? Look at you, look at me. I think a lot of people say, oh, it's hard to change a human being. If you want to change for the right reasons, you can change.
Yeah. I'm still kind of a dick, but I'm working. I'm really, actually, to be honest, I'm not even working on it that hard, to be honest. I like to say, well, I'm working on it. I'm not. I tell my wife all the time when she's like, hey, listen, and she tells me something, I'm like, I know, but I'm working on it. But I'm not really working on it. Just trying to get through that moment.
Like I always tell my wife, I can be a dick, but I'm not a bitch. There you go.
I hear you.
And you can't say that word in prison. You know that. That's a dirty word. That's bad juju.
Yeah. Boy, you had a hard time. The releasing the shit to the fucking media.
Yeah.
What a dick. How can that guy do that? And how could you kick back? But there are those guards that are such fucking scumbags that, like, he thought to him, he's like, yeah, fuck him. It's like, what's wrong with you, bro?
Yeah, and I mean, he was like one of the only ones, and it was interesting because here I am coming as a cop. I learned all the tricks of the trades. I knew how all the dope was getting in.
Right.
I mean, those guys trusted me in there.
Right.
I mean, it was interesting. It was. I mean, I'm making breaks. I'm sure you made some breaks while you were in prison.
I don't know.
With ramen noodles. Turn them into
bricks.
Breaks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Might be different term, federal, state. I don't know, but I mean, I sat around, making breaks with all these guys.
You're saying breaks?
They call them breaks in there.
I thought you meant because you know how it looks like a little brick.
No, they call them breaks in there, like a big bowl, like a casserole, and we'd make them out of ramen noodles, and pizza bowls. Oh, I made a pizza bowl for my wife.
They call them Cadillacs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Federal, they'll say, give me a Cadillac.
It's breaks in Ohio prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
Noodles.
No, they would take ramen noodles.
Yep.
And they would take refried beans.
Oh yes.
And listen, and I'm telling you right now, the shit's good. Like, it's not like you would get it and eat it and be like, yeah, I hate to say this, but this, like, if I didn't know that this has about 3 days worth of sodium in it, like, I'd really be enjoyed that. I'm also thinking I'm dying right now.
Well, I know, and you don't think about that until now, but oh my gosh. And then I knew guys that worked down in the kitchen. And they had this contraption with bags. They'd tie it and put it in their bag, and then they'd smuggle shit back to me. And so I do trades with guys all the time, too.
Yeah.
And I have extra food from down there. I mean,
yeah, stealing from the kitchen is like a full-time gig. Like, that's like, guys will be like,
that's a full-time hustle.
Yeah, they're not working there for the $12 a month. No, it's the stealing.
No, but no prison but during that time, I mean, I did while I was sheriff, between the drugs and the cheating on my wife, I mean, and the 3 Ps, power, pills, and pussy. I ain't lied. That's what it was. And it got in my way. And the pride. Don't forget the pride.
Yeah. Yeah, you should go with 4. You got to throw 4 in there.
4, the pride. No, you made a good point, Matt, but you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking today. You know that?
Yeah,
if you went through your shit and I would have went through my shit.
I'd have passed on this. No offense.
You know what? I wouldn't have. I wouldn't change my past. I really wouldn't.
Listen, 13 years. I had to.
Well, yeah, you did it longer. Four versus
I could have
13.
done without it.
No, I get that. I get
You know.
it. You probably could have done 4 standing on your head.
Listen, I honestly, I was so crushed. If they'd given me like 18 months, I think I'd have been all better. It'd been like, look, Your Honor, I get it. My bad. I mean, I honestly, like, as soon as you go, that going from here down to here, it's like, it's so humbling, which without a doubt, I needed to be humbled. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind.
I did
just
too.
took 13 years of it. It was like, it's like after a few years, it was like, look, I get it. I get it. I'm all good now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think after 18 months, I would have got it too.
Because think about it. Here's the worst part of it. People are like, oh, the time. No, forget about the time. If you give somebody 6 months, you've devastated their life. They've lost their house, their cars, their credit's shit. They're in a way, I would have been better off. I would have been worse off if they'd let me out after a year than they did, because at least when they let me out after 13, I got to go to the halfway house. My credit there was no credit. So I got 3 secure credit cards. So by the time I left the halfway house, I have 750 credit scores. I've got a job. I've got some money saved. So if you'd let me out after a year, I would have been on the street. I wouldn't have been able to save any money. Right. My credit would have been crap. Mm-hmm. I would have been like, I wouldn't have done anything. Like, it would have been probably more devastating after a year. So really, just by locking anybody up for 6 months to a year to 18 months, you've devastated their life. So that extra 10 years doesn't do shit.
You're right.
Except for cost of taxpayers an extra $400,000 or whatever it cost them.
Right.
Because it cost about $500,000 to keep me in prison.
I believe that.
That's just what from just the bureau. If you then say, okay, well, if you go back in and you add in. If you were to go back in and add in like the loss of the tax revenue that I would have paid in, like, it ends up being outrageous. It ends up being well over $1 million and then some.
And just think about how many people are incarcerated. Like in Ohio, there's 28 prisons.
Right.
And there's almost 50,000 inmates.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a ton.
I mean, that's a whole county. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, my buddy Zach and I were talking about this the other day. We were talking about how they say, that like 1% of the United States population is in some sort of supervision, incarcerated or on probation. And then what he was saying was, he's like, yeah, but what they don't take into consideration? They don't consider the people that are currently in jail waiting to be tried, that haven't been found guilty yet.
Correct.
They're just incarcerated waiting to be found guilty. So if you add that back in, you're probably well over 1%.
Oh yeah, they're just sitting there idle. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, and I knew a guy that was 5 years he sat in. 5 years.
Could you imagine that?
In the county too, because the county's horrible.
I hate county
jails.
time versus.
I'd rather go to prison.
I've been to
prison's way better.
I've been to 3 different county jails.
Yeah,
in between everything.
It's horrible. So you're writing a book?
Yes. Hopefully, as you well know, it'll be out by the end of the year.
And you were just what was the magazine? Was just in a magazine?
Recovery Today.
Recovery Today.
Yes. Been in
Was
that.
Was I supposed to mention that?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's already
Just
been
make
in. No, that's great.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, and continue to do speaking engagements, working, and coming to see great people like you, Matt.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're both the same height.
Yeah, you might even today. You're taller because I noticed you got
feel
boots
like
on.
I have
Cheated.
boots on.
So, yeah, I noticed. I should wear my timber.
I don't own anything without a heel.
Oh, I did. I wore flat because I just
You
did.
fit? Would you?
Well, I
didn't
didn't because I was coming on your. Hey, I didn't want to rain on your parade coming on your territory.
You would've-
So I had flat shoes. You know what? I still have my Timberland boots from when I was in prison, and I wear them.
Oh, yeah, I wore the boots they give you, the plastic.
No, I ended up getting a pair of Timberlands. I traded them for a deal in there, and I still wear them. My wife's always like, "Why do you wear those?" I said, "Because I don't want to go back there." It makes me think.
Right.
It's kind of a trigger, like, don't forget where you came from.
Oh, I still
got my Tims.
I still have blue jeans that.
That you got from there?
Yes, I
I
still
got
have
my
blue jeans.
stocking cap. I got a hoodie that I paid 2 Snicker bars that somebody made for me.
I never. I only bought. Now I had about 3 pairs of new shoes, I think, since when I was there, but I only personally purchased 1 pair of shoes the whole time, because when guys would leave, I'd say, hey, bro, you're leaving in like a month. They go, yeah. I go, what size shoe are you? And they tell me, I'd say, would you leave me a pair of your shoes? They go, fuck yeah, Cox, I'll leave them. My buddy Pete bought me a pair of shoes one time. My cousin bought me a pair of shoes one time because I wouldn't do it. They were like, you cheap motherfucker. No, I'm not doing it.
I'll never forget. They had those bubble TVs, but you had to have a title for it in there.
You had a TV?
Yeah. Now listen. I got my hands on this bubble TV. I traded 2 boxes of laundry detergent for it to a. I couldn't stand him. Like and something else I should talk about. Child molesters. They're not well respected. So I had one doing my laundry every day for a pack of cookies a month.
Right. We had a you might want to bleep that out. I'm not sure if that's going to be okay.
What about child molesters?
Yeah, well, saying it, then sometimes YouTube will be like it'll show up and they'll demonetize.
You can fix that.
Yeah, he'll probably fix it. But I was going to say there was a guy they called Mr. Cookies.
Yeah.
No, they called him the Cookie Monster. He would give guys a pack of cookies if they would, like the young guys that come in, they're like 19, 18, whatever, they come in, and he would give, like, if you'll just show it to me, I'll give you a pack of it. And there were literally there were guys that would go once a week. He'd only do it like maybe once a week. He would go once a week and say, hey man, can I get some cookies? And the guy would be like, well, I mean, you can. And they go, yeah, no, I know the deal, bro. And they walk. So you literally, the guys would be sitting around, like you'd have and I hate to say it was a bunch of Puerto Rican guys.
Oh my God.
So this one Puerto Rican guy he said, we're sitting there, listen, Cox, we're sitting there. And one of the guys goes, man, you got anything to eat? I'm like, nah, I got anything. I missed commissary. What about you? Man, I got nothing. I got some soup. And I said, oh man, y'all want some cookies? And they go, yeah. He go, all right, I'll be back. And he'd walk off. He came back with some cookies. And then we were like, where'd you get the cookies? And he'd go, man, Mr. Cookies, Cookie Monster down there. All you got to do, they'd be like, oh man, that's wrong. What are you doing? I was like,
oh my gosh.
Guys would come up and tell me random stories because they knew I wrote stories. Like, yes. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's going to make it into one of my stories, but I do appreciate you telling me that.
That's an interesting one.
The Cookie Monster.
I saw a guy use bologna and turn it into something too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's some deeply disturbed people.
Very disturbed.
Yeah.
And very creative.
Yeah.
Very creative in there.
Yeah.
Very creative.
I used to love the guys that would get the dirty pictures and they would put tape over it. They'd make it waterproof, and then they'd go in the bathroom and slap it onto they take soap, rub it on the thing, and slap on the thing, slap it on in the shower and be in there. And just,
and do their thing. Yeah. Boy, I don't miss those days.
No,
I don't.
You could rent, like they had, some of these guys had like, not Playboys, but whatever, they had like dirty books, and you could rent them. You give like a book of stamps, you got to keep the book and it was like,
wow.
What is going on with you guys? Have you no self-control at all?
I got better for you. There was a cell up by the like the bubble where the female corrections officers would come into.
Oh yeah.
Listen,
the gunners. Or with these, the snipers were the guys that would be really far, but the gunners would walk right up on them, put their hand in their pocket. Hey, how you doing?
Well, or this guy would always rent his cell out so they could do their
sniper.
Yes,
from a distance through the window.
And I would always say, why is your box full? He goes, well, let me tell you why my box is full of food. Because I rent this baby. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
Oh, yeah.
And sure they did. Yeah. Creative business.
So many problems. So many disturbed people.
Yeah.
Listen, what's up with these cops? What that female? Did you see that female cop that was banging like 5 of her deputies?
I know.
What's going on? I was like, these cops. What are these sheriffs? What are they doing?
I don't know. Maybe I need to go out and do some consulting.
I mean, you need to swing by there and say, hey,
look what it did to me.
This is bad news, bro.
Shit. You want your... But no. Yeah, I mean, my life was out of control. I'm like night and day now.
Yeah. I'm all better. I'm not
all better.
It's a bad time.
I'm not perfect. No, I'll never be. Progression, never perfection.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, what was I telling somebody on the phone that? I was going to say that there's certain people people get to a spot where some people excel, and then a lot of those people self-destruct, right?
Yes.
And so you go, okay, well, I don't understand. If I was this, I'd be so happy. But the truth is that it takes a certain type of personality type to excel and be the leader of an organization of some type, and to be able to have the confidence and the ability to be able to tell people what to do and take control and be and kind of ooze that confidence and that people trust and they follow. But the problem with that is what comes along with that is a certain amount of narcissism. So you have that, like, you don't ever get some weak guy at the very top who's, because nobody follows him, they don't respect him, they talk about him, they he doesn't do a good job, nobody trusts him, and so it falls apart very quickly. So there's a balance there that some people they self-destruct. Lots of people self-destruct. They're like, I don't understand. This guy's making millions of dollars a year, the CEO of whatever, and he's embezzling on the side, or he's doing this on the side, and he does this, or he's got a girlfriend and a whole nother family.
Right.
Like that senator that had like a whole other family, over here. Like, what's going on? Or he's seeing prostitutes on the side. He's client number 7, or it's like, what are you doing? You're a senator. You're this. You're. So, and you should be happy. Your wife is gorgeous. You've got great kids. You've got right. Well, to get to that position, you have a certain amount of narcissism and your ego and your pride, and you start to think, like you said, bulletproof, and then you self-destruct, and people don't understand why. Because if I didn't have those things, I would have never run for office or tried for that position or wanted to be ahead of that team or I would have never pushed myself and done those things. Because why doesn't Paul do it? He's been here 25 years. Because Paul can't do it, can he? No. You're not going to vote for Paul.
No,
you're not going to.
You're right. But, like, how did you do what you did, and how you got back and you bounced back like you did? And how am I bouncing back now?
Right.
The same thing. You got to have a little bit in you.
Yeah, you got to.
As long as you don't have a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's the constant. That's constantly telling myself that, like, calm down, don't get excited. You're not all that. Because listen, I listen. Nobody. I got, I've got like fans and people that leave comments in the comment section. Bro, you're amazing, and I could listen to you all day. Like, I promise you, none of you guys think I'm as cool as I think I am. So I'm so, they're like, bro, you're the best. You'd be like, you don't even have to say it.
I already know it.
I almost listen. If I didn't live with Jess, I'd probably tell myself that in the mirror. I'd probably look in the mirror and tell myself that. But the truth is that, so I'm constantly kind of having to tell myself, like, bro, you're a bad month or two from basically from being on the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not all that. So it's constantly, I'm in my head telling myself, calm down, be happy, get your head straight, be appreciative of what you have, be humble. You're not all that great of a person. You're not that, like, I'm constantly doing that to myself because I know deep down inside, like, I want to go nuts. I want to, like, I think about committing fraud. I think about, money. I think about, I could be driving this. I could be doing this.
Yeah. I get it. You always think there's more, there's better, or you can make yourself happier.
Yeah.
Like,
and I can pull it off. I can do it. I can pull it off.
Yeah.
They won't catch me. Because why? Because they didn't catch you before? Well, they caught you over and over and over again. Yeah, this will be different.
And like, I didn't think they would catch me, and they got me.
Right.
And like you just said, Jess and my Jennifer, they keep us grounded. That's what my wife does for me and my children, and we have things to live for, and we don't want to be behind those walls again.
Yeah. I think poor fucking Jess. This chick, I feel horrible for her sometimes.
She loves you though, I can tell.
Yeah. Oh,
And my wife loves me. I tell you, she was so supportive of me coming here.
Yeah.
And you gotta have balance in your life.
She also knows I'm just like a complete douchebag. Like, I'm like, I'll read stuff and I'll be like, look, this guy said this and this is that's hilarious, bro. These guys love me. And she's like, they don't know you, okay? She's like, calm down, okay? He doesn't know. He doesn't realize that you don't pick up your clothes, or that you don't do this, or that you make a mess and do this. Like, everything you say is funny, and that if you fuck up, you can turn to Colby and say, Colby, fix that. Take that out.
I'm gonna start putting random comments how wonderful you are there.
You don't have, bro, read the comments. I should take all the comments and just read them. I think I would I would just die from the euphoria I'd cause me like to have a stroke or something. If I sat here and read like 100 comments in a row, it's insane. Like for every 30 comments that say this is amazing, you're a great guy, you're funny, you're so funny, I can listen to you all that. For all of those, every once in a while, then there's some guy that says you're a piece of garbage, lying scumbag, snitch motherfucker, rat piece of garbage. Like, and unfortunately, like that's the guy that I'm like, yes, but did you subscribe? Did you share the video?
That's what I would say.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, unfortunately, the guys that say you're wonderful, I'm like, yeah, that's not worth a comment. I'm going to comment to the guy that says I'm a piece of garbage. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's just stupid.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get negative shit too.
Negative stuff. I love responding to those guys.
I like it too because it turns me up about 2 more notches.
Yeah,
I'm like, say, what else can I do? To piss somebody off.
Those guys. What's really funny is when you answer those guys and you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and before you know it, after about 6 or 7 back and forth, they suddenly go, bro, I'm gonna like erase my comment because like you seem like an all right dude, man. I feel like I don't know what I was thinking. Like I'm like I was really just trying to drum you up, and I ended up getting a buddy.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Hey, spin people. It's like in prison. You spin them.
Good times.
Be a spin artist.
Good times.
Yeah.
All right, what are we doing?
The outro?
Yes. Unless you have something else.
No.
No?
You good?
I mean, I'm good.
Scale 1 to 10. Talk to me.
We've had some good guests. Like, well, listen. What was? Say, I always call him Chip, but he didn't like Chip. It's Wade. Remember Wade? The
Story.
The story was it was the stand your ground law where the guy attacked him in his kitchen and he shot him.
The Carolinas.
Yeah, he runs a. He was a great. I mean, totally different story.
Right.
But he was a great. He told a great story, like from beginning to end. It was. I did interrupt him a lot like I did you.
But I think you did a good job interrupting, because what it does
listen. Don't stop. I think I'm amazing. I get it.
I think you're one of the best looking guys I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay.
Oh my God.
Send the money to my wife's Venmo.
Listen, I was picked him up from the airport. We were driving, and I was shifting. And I looked down at his arm, and I thought, "Oh my God, he has his arms are tiny like mine. He has little tiny hands just like mine." I was like, "Oh my God!" I go, "How tall are you?" And you know what he said? Wait, it was.
I said 5'7" on a good day.
5'7", like I say, 5'7" with a good pair of shoes. I was like, "Oh my God!"
You guys both have art degrees.
Yeah. Well, 2 years.
Yeah, we're both in.
I have a degree in fine art.
Yes. Yeah.
You have.
And I do not do this.
No.
And I'm gonna buy a painting off you someday.
I want you to buy one.
I know. I already heard how long it takes.
What?
It takes a long. It can take you a long time. And
what? For what?
The extent of some of these big paintings. I heard.
No, for a big one. These are screen prints.
That's pretty cool.
So what happens is her face and hair are actually a screen print, but I paint. So I paint in all the colors. And then I screen print it, and then I paint the X's and the little, skeletons, and I paint the little X's on the eyes, and I go back in and touch them up and stuff, and I put the line around it. So it's partially a screen print. So, but these I sell cheap, like $300, and that's to mail it to them.
Those are cool.
So there's not like a huge amount of profit, but I sell a lot of them. But the bigger paintings I paint myself, and that
Have you ever done like personal people, like the people that say, "Hey, I want a painting of myself"?
I painted this guy's kid the other day. I've done portraits for people. I'm painting a guy's wife right now.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, which is going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I do stuff like that, but that's the difference between that is like this is like $300, and I mail it to you for $300.
Yeah, no, that's
as opposed
that's
to
a great deal.
Do you want to pay $1,500 to $2,000?
What about? I think
paint.
this would be an outstanding one. Do you think I could get a Matt Cox one?
Of me?
So I'm going to put it on my ceiling of my bed.
You know what? I will give you.
What?
I actually have. Hold on a second.
Oh my gosh! I got Matt Cox. Here we go. This is going to be the best. Oh, listen. I get one?
Yeah, you can take one. So listen, I have a Patreon, and I give away a different con man painting every month. So like last month I think this is cooler. I did Matt Cox. Right here.
I gotta have a Matt Cox.
Oh wait, right. Look. Can you, yeah. Look. Huh? That's pretty cool.
It'll fit in my backpack to take home.
Or I can mail it to you.
No, it will cost you money. I don't want to.
No, it's like
Just carry it with you.
it's like $12. Look, and then on the back,
It'll fit my backpack.
if you say so.
It's free. I want to see.
And I can wrap it up in
fine.
bubble wrap, and then I put on the back. Of course I do the whole thing.
They're both of you, aren't they?
Yeah, they're both me.
Do you care if I take the green? It's my favorite color. Oh, she wants the green.
No, she said this is the better one. And then I put like who it is, but I do different ones. Like I got Ponzi, I got all of them. I got all kinds of different stuff.
I love
I
it.
thought that's cooler. You don't think that one's cool?
Why? What's the difference?
Which one's cooler?
Well, just because this one's more colorful. That's all I was thinking.
Flip them this way.
What do you think? You tell me.
It's your painting.
Yeah, it's your preference. Yeah, it doesn't
Maybe
matter.
the pink.
No,
I get what you're saying because it looks more like
It's quite a more pop artist, is what I'm saying.
Andy Warhol.
Yes.
Did you have a lifestyle like Andy Warhol?
No.
Okay,
Lifestyle.
I was waiting for that.
He was
So which one do you think?
flamboyantly. Hey.
Or went to school for art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you believe that? We got a lot of similarities. Isn't that kind of weird? Maybe we're
My-
brothers from another mother.
My dad did get around a lot when he was younger.
Yeah. But you're okay, man. You're better looking than me. I already told you.
He told me I may be one of the best looking men he's ever seen.
Yes. Can you believe that?
Look at
I know. All right, I'll take this one with me.
you can take whichever one you want.
I think it's freaking sweet.
I'm just saying.
It's okay if pink's your favorite.
Oh, listen, I'll show you. I'm doing some jokers right now, right?
Because you do the Joker smile.
Yeah, I know. I have
you
it.
do. I know you do.
So I did. I'm gonna show you these set jokers I do where I put the whole thing's covered. It's a panel that's covered with comic books. Then I screen a joker over it. I got another screen coming so I can put in letters so it says do I look like a guy with a plan? And then I've got the screen also says
I think it says I'm just a guy.
no, it's do I look like a guy? The other one is why so serious? So, but I'm gonna show it to you. Super cool.
Oh, I bet.
And then I'm gonna pour. It's not this size. These are big. They're like 3 feet. And then I'm gonna put what is it, epoxy? Yeah, resin. It's epoxy. We're gonna put resin over it, so it's super. I'll show you, man. They're cool as hell. I like that. That's one of the things I want to start doing. Is that
I should pay you to do a prison one of me.
Yeah, this is a screen.
You can do it,
bro. Yeah, I send these away for Patreon. I'm saying I can buy a screen and then just screen them.
Well,
So I screen them and then paint them and then screen them again,
but
and then I draw the line around.
I could have you do one with my prison mugshot.
Yeah,
You know what?
yeah,
It'd be pretty sweet. But my wife will love this when I bring it home.
nice.
Yeah, I think I'll do the pink because you know what? It's that pop arty.
Yeah, I'll give you a book too. I get a book.
Oh, you're with the shark on it.
Well, it's got a shark on it. It's got me and a shark on it.
You're kind of a shark. You're not a guppy. You're a shark.
Well, the reason I did that was there was an article when I was on the run that was called "Sharks in the Housing Pool," and it was about me. It was about people that were committing fraud in real estate, and then when they then eventually they do another article, and it's the feds catch a great white, something like that.
You got one on Amazon to download?
I do.
My wife downloaded it.
Oh, did she? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, I also have a physical copy.
Well,
if you want
I
one.
read physical. She does She's got an Amazon. I don't do that good stuff. I like physical copies.
Okay. Well, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Man, you're taking good care of me here.
I mean, you flew in. I don't feel super obligated. I feel semi-obligated, but I do feel obligated.
Why?
Like, you paid to fly in.
I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And the guy in Canada that does the shorts, he'll cut this up, and so you'll have a bunch of little shorts, little reels of you. I'm sure he'll cut this up into some different things.
We need to get a good picture of us sitting here too.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because
I need to wrap this up. We're still on, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
He was gonna cut it out. So
No, he probably won't.
I'm leaving most of that in.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. We were having great conversation.
Yeah, it's good.
Plus, look what you're doing for me. This is great. What a memento.
All right. Thank you for coming, by the way. Thanks for flying in.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, though, Matt.
Yeah.
This was great.
All right. I'm okay, so Colby just gave me the nod. All right. Hey, so I appreciate you guys watching. If you like the video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Also, share the video to as many friends and family as you can. If you're wondering, hey, Matt, I don't understand, why isn't your channel blowing up, and why don't you have more subscribers, and why aren't you getting more views? It's because you're not sharing my shit. That's why. So share the video. Hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Even if it's a mean comment, that's fine. I'm good with that. And also, I wrote a bunch of books when I was in federal prison. I wrote a bunch of true crime books. So check out the trailers, and I appreciate you watching.
Using forgeries and bogus identities, Matthew B. Cox, one of the most ingenious con men in history, built America's biggest banks out of millions. Despite numerous encounters with bank security, state, and federal authorities, Cox narrowly, and quite luckily, avoided capture for years. Eventually, he topped the U.S. Secret Service's most wanted list and led the U.S. Marshals, FBI, and Secret Service on a 3-year chase, while jet-setting around the world with his attractive female accomplices. Cox has been declared one of the most prolific mortgage fraud con artists of all time by CNBC's American Greed. Bloomberg Businessweek called him the mortgage industry's worst nightmare, while Dateline NBC described Cox as a gifted forger and silver-tongued liar. Playboy magazine proclaimed his scam was real estate fraud, and he was the best. Shark in the Housing Pool is Cox's exhilarating first-person account of his stranger-than-fiction story. Available now on Amazon and Audible.
Bent is the story of John J. Boziak's phenomenal life of crime. Inked from head to toe, with an addiction to strippers and fast Cadillacs, Boziak was not your typical computer geek. He was, however, one of the most cunning scammers, counterfeiters, identity thieves, and escape artists alive, and a major thorn in the side of the U.S. Secret Service as they fought a war on cybercrime. With a savant-like ability to circumvent banking security and stay one step ahead of law enforcement, Boziak made millions of dollars in the international cyber underworld, with the help of the Chinese and the Russians. Then, leaving nothing but a John Doe warrant and a cleaned-out bank account in his wake, he vanished. Boziak's stranger-than-fiction tale of ingenious scams and impossible escapes, of brazen run-ins with the law and secret desires to straighten out and settle down, makes his story a true crime con game that will keep you guessing. Bent: How a Homeless Teen Became One of the Cybercrime Industry's Most Prolific Counterfeiters. Available now on Amazon and Audible.
Buried by the U.S. government and ignored by the national media, this is the story they don't want you to know. When Frank Amadeo met with President George W. Bush at the White House to discuss NATO operations in Afghanistan, no one knew that he'd already embezzled nearly $200 million from the federal government, money he intended to use to bankroll his plan to take over the world. From Amadeo's global headquarters in the shadow of Florida's Disney World, with a nearly inexhaustible supply of the Internal Revenue Service's funds, Amadeo acquired multiple businesses, amassing a mega conglomerate. Driven by his delusions of world conquest, he negotiated the purchase of a squadron of American fighter jets and the controlling interest in a former Soviet ICBM factory. He began working to build the largest private militia on the planet, over 1 million Africans strong. Simultaneously, Amadeo hired an international black ops force to orchestrate a coup in the Congo, while plotting to take over several small Eastern European countries. The most disturbing part of it all is, had the U.S. government not thwarted his plans, he might have just pulled it off. It's insanity, the bizarre, true story of a bipolar megalomaniac's insane plan for total world domination. Available now on Amazon and Audible.
Pierre Rossini, in the 1990s, was a 20-something-year-old Los Angeles-based drug trafficker of ecstasy and ice. He and his associates drove luxury European supercars, lived in Beverly Hills penthouses, and dated Playboy models while dodging federal indictments. Then, 2 FBI officers with the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force entered the picture. Dirty agents willing to fix cases and identify informants. Suddenly, 2 of Rossini's associates, confidential informants working with federal law enforcement, were murdered. Everyone pointed to Rossini. As his co-defendants prepared for trial, U.S. Attorney Robert Mueller sat down to debrief Rossini at Leavenworth Penitentiary, and another story emerged. A tale of FBI corruption and complicity in murder. You see, Pierre Rossini knew something that no one else knew. The truth. And Robert Mueller and the federal government have been covering it up to this very day. Devil Exposed. A twisted tale of drug trafficking, corruption, and murder in the City of Angels. Available on Amazon and Audible.
Bailout is a psychological true crime thriller that pits a narcissistic conman against an egotistical, pathological liar. Marcus Schrinker, the money manager who attempted to fake his own death during the 2008 financial crisis, is about to be released from prison, and he's ready to talk. He's ready to tell you the story no one's heard. Schrinker sits down with true crime writer Matthew B. Cox, a fellow inmate serving time for bank fraud. Schrinker lays out the details. The disgruntled clients who persecuted him for unanticipated market losses, the affair that ruined his marriage, and the treachery of his scorned wife, the woman who framed him for securities fraud, leaving him no choice but to make a bogus distress call and plunge from his multi-million-dollar private aircraft in the dead of night. The $11.1 million in life insurance, the missing $1.5 million in gold. The fact is, Schrinker wants you to think he's innocent. The problem is, Cox knows Schrinker's a pathological liar, and his story's a fabrication. As Cox subtly coaxes, cajoles, and yes, cons Schrinker into revealing his deceptions, his stranger-than-fiction life of lies slowly unravels. This is the story Schrinker didn't want you to know. Bailout: The Life and Lies of Marcus Schrinker. Available now on Barnes & Noble, Etsy, and Audible.
Matthew B. Cox is a con man, incarcerated in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for a variety of bank fraud-related scams. Despite not having a drug problem, Cox inexplicably ends up in the prison's Residential Drug Abuse Program, known as RDAP. A drug program in name only. RDAP is an invasive behavior modification therapy, specifically designed to correct the cognitive thinking errors associated with criminal behavior. The program is a non-fiction dark comedy which chronicles Cox's side-splitting journey. This first-person account is a fascinating glimpse at the survivor-like atmosphere inside of the government-sponsored rehabilitation unit. While navigating the treachery of his backstabbing peers, Cox simultaneously manipulates prison policies and the bumbling staff every step of the way. The program: How a Conman Survived the Federal Bureau of Prisons' Cult of RDAP. Available now on Amazon and Audible.
If you saw anything you like, links to all the books are in the description box.